How did a community built on survival, durability, and nature become a multi-billion-dollar trap of planned obsolescence? To understand the dark truth about modern camping gear scams, we have to look back at the exact decade the outdoor industry stopped caring about quality and started prioritizing profit margins. This is a $61 billion industry, and somewhere between the hand-sewn Gore-Tex jackets of the late 1970s and the counterfeit tents flooding your social media feed today, something went profoundly wrong. Let's start at the beginning. In 1977, Gore-Tex was introduced to the outdoor world at the Cola Show in Britain. It was revolutionary. For the first time, hikers and climbers had a fabric that was both waterproof and breathable. And the companies making gear back then operated on a completely different philosophy. They treated employees like family. They treated customers like friends. Planned obsolescence wasn't a concept anyone in the outdoor industry would have recognized, let alone embraced. If you bought a pack or a sleeping bag, you expected it to last a decade, maybe two. And it usually did. These were companies rooted in craftsmanship. Outdoor Research was still making everything in Seattle. Small leather glove makers who'd been operating since the 1920s kept their production domestic and their quality uncompromising. The gear was expensive, sure, but it was honest. Then the 1990s arrived and everything changed. This is the decade the outdoor industry sold its soul. Brands began offshoring manufacturing to Asia at a staggering pace. Factories in China and Southeast Asia could produce gear at a fraction of domestic costs. And once companies had access to those overseas facilities, the barriers to entry collapsed. Suddenly, every brand could make accessories, apparel, footwear, all of it cheaper and faster than ever before. Companies like Outdoor Research, still manufacturing domestically, found themselves undercut by competitors who'd moved their entire supply chain overseas. By 2015, VF Corporation, the parent company behind the North Face, JanSport, Timberland, and Eastpak, controlled 55% of the entire U.S. backpack market. One corporation, more than half the backpacks in America. But the scale of the problem goes far beyond what customs agents can intercept. In January 2025, HSI Los Angeles arrested 8 individuals involved in a conspiracy among logistics executives, warehouse owners, and truck drivers to smuggle hundreds of millions of dollars worth of counterfeit goods through the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. The total value of goods seized in connection with these seal-swapping smuggling schemes exceeded $1.3 billion. As Special Agent in Charge Eddie Wang put it, this scheme illuminates how complex smuggling operations try to exploit legitimate trade practices and the American consumer. And the consumer is being exploited. Counterfeit camping gear undercuts authentic products by 40 to 60%. That price difference is irresistible to budget-conscious shoppers, especially when the fakes are sold through sophisticated scam websites designed to look like legitimate retailers. These sites use high-quality templates, fake reviews, countdown timers, and urgent calls to action, all fabricated to exploit human psychology. Research has identified sites like campinggears.store as part of larger interconnected scam networks based in China, operating countless fake retail fronts with the sole intent of defrauding customers. But what happens when you actually use this gear? Collapsed tent poles, failed waterproofing, inadequate insulation. These aren't minor inconveniences. In backcountry conditions, they can be genuinely dangerous. And here's what makes the dark truth about modern camping gear scams even more unsettling. You can't always trust the legitimate brands either. Take sleeping bag temperature ratings. Before 2005, there was no standard system. Manufacturers simply decided for themselves what rating to slap on a bag. 2 sleeping bags labeled 30 degrees Fahrenheit could perform wildly differently. The European norm standard introduced in 2005, later replaced by ISO 23537 in 2017, was supposed to fix this. but compliance is voluntary. Non-rated bags are still described as the Wild West, where companies choose their ratings in-house with zero external verification. Even with rated bags, most users find their bags perform 5 to 10 degrees warmer or colder than advertised. The same voluntary compliance problem plagues tents. ISO standards exist for quality benchmarks, but following them costs between $10,000 and $50,000 per product line. Budget manufacturers simply skip the process and compete on price. Then there's the case of Patagonia, a company that has built its entire brand on doing things the right way. In May 2021, Patagonia discovered through internal testing that 2 of its apparel lines, the Capilene Performance shirts and Tropic Comfort Lifestyle shirts, were failing their advertised UPF 50 sun protection rating. Independent lab testing confirmed some products offered as little as UPF 17. Patagonia issued a voluntary recall. CEO Ryan Gellert later acknowledged on LinkedIn that while the company remains profitable, they aren't meeting the high standards they set for themselves. If Patagonia can get it wrong, what does that say about brands with far less commitment to transparency? Meanwhile, there's another layer to this story that rarely gets discussed. Many popular tents on the market are treated with PFAS, per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances known as forever chemicals, used for water resistance. These chemicals persist in the environment indefinitely and pose potential health risks. You're paying premium prices for gear that may be quietly poisoning both you and the wilderness you came to enjoy. The outdoor industry is now in a paradoxical crisis. Participation in hiking surged 11.5% in 2022, with over 54 million Americans hitting the trails. Yet throughout 2024 and 2025, brands from Patagonia to REI to Orvis announced revenue shortfalls, layoffs, and closures. REI CEO Eric Artz acknowledged that outdoor specialty retail experienced 4 consecutive quarters of decline, with the trend worsening. The Outdoor Retailer Trade Show dropped to just 1 annual event. Consumers are spending less on high-ticket gear and gravitating toward cheaper alternatives, which pushes even more people toward the unverified, potentially counterfeit products flooding online marketplaces. The government is starting to respond. The Trump administration eliminated the de minimis loophole in 2025, which had allowed shipments under $800 to bypass tariffs and customs scrutiny. Chinese customs implemented over 53,000 IP protection actions in 2024 alone. But enforcement is playing catch-up against an industry that moves faster than regulators ever could. So, what do? Look for ISO-rated gear? Check for transparent supply chains. Be deeply skeptical of any deal that seems too good to be true, because in this industry, it almost certainly is. The dark truth about modern camping gear scams isn't just about counterfeit tents from Chinese scam websites. It's about an entire industry that traded craftsmanship for cost savings, durability for disposability, and trust for profit margins. The wilderness hasn't changed, but the gear we carry into it has. And until consumers start demanding better and companies start delivering it, the scams will keep coming. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe.